Hello. I'd like some clarity on something. I've got a question about the environment and whether certain environments are conducive and beneficial to well-being.
Yep.
And other environments not so.
Yep.
What I'm trying to get clarity on is whether I'm overlooking something, whether I have some blind spots. And for example, I'm becoming more and more sensitive, and I travel a lot, and I find that when I'm here in
London.
England and London,
Yep.
I get affected really quickly.
Yep.
My mood goes down, I become disconnected,
Yep.
I find it hard to tune in.
Yep.
I'm trying to distinguish whether I'm back in a place that I'm familiar with, and so therefore its influence on me over my whole life. I find that as soon as I step out, my mood changes. Or whether I'm just overlooking something here, and I'm blaming my environment.
Let's look at it from a truthful perspective.
Okay, please.
So here's your soul. You're one half of the soul, so here's your soul, feminine, connected with the two bodies. Your body might not look exactly like that, but that's as good as we go. Now, so there's you. There's you as a subtitle. Now, you carry around with you every unhealed emotion. So let's just call them, should we call them unhealed? Or it might be just as easy to call them unfelt emotions. Does that make sense? Now, the environment in which you grew up from a very young child is the environment that created these emotions. So if we look at the sum total of these unhealed emotions, we can see that it's the childhood environment that created them. So when you are in your childhood environment, that is the place that is going to access and push all of your buttons more than any other place. Right? Now, if you find it's a country, it will be a country. It will be actually sometimes even a location in the country. It depends on how attached you are to that childhood environment as to where it will be. But for the majority of people, it's a country and a place in that country that just makes them feel a certain way. And so what the majority of people do is, instead of feeling the emotions that cause their despondent feelings, they choose to travel to another country. And then that country has a different set of childhood environment emotions that it would have created. And because it's not the same set of emotions that are in you, you get to avoid all of your emotions from your childhood.
Sure, that would make sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, there's a second part to your question. There is, of course, environments, physical environments, that will help us access things emotionally.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And these physical environments obviously are more connected with nature and more connected with, the pure way of eating and drinking and sleeping and being in tune with the environment around you. However, for the majority of people who are wanting to address emotions, the fastest way to access them is to return to your childhood environment.
And actually, I keep returning here and wondering why I keep returning here. And I know that actually things are speeding up and I'm here to do the work because I go straight into it when I return.
Exactly.
That sounds very clear to me. I also hear myself saying, though, that I'm using a lot of energy keeping that out.
You are. Yep.
And that being, I've always felt it as the energetics of the environment, maybe influence of...
Well, the environment is opposing you. You're opposing your environment. Whenever you come here, you're opposing your environment the most, in fact. That's why there is a lower amount of energy, a lower amount of joy, because you're opposing your environment the most. You're preventing your own emotions, and in doing so, opposing your environment. And it's not a very good way to access causal emotion and release these unfelt emotions. But it's way the majority of people choose. You know,
Okay.
there is an opposition that we place between ourselves and the environment to prevent ourselves from experiencing the emotions that the environment is projecting upon us. And the unfortunate thing with that is that we end up holding on and even resisting more the emotions when we could have the opportunity to release them. So my suggestion, instead of doing that, is to look at your fears associated with the childhood environment and emotions, because it's always these fears that cause you to run away from their being triggered.
And you'd say it was a running away rather than just a preference of knowing that another environment's okay. All right. I get it.
You don't want it to be, but yes, yes it is.
Right. Damn.
Now, this does not mean that in the future you may not have some preferences that are different than your current preferences, but they won't be driven by any fear to avoid childhood emotions. And in fact, what will happen is you will be able to be in any location of the world without feeling oppressed emotionally by the location. So when you're at one with God, that's the pure condition. The pure condition is you're not oppressed by any location. You finish up having a preference because you might like the nature more than you like a city, or you might like a city more than you like nature, or whatever it is.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, I've just been to a location which is a very oppressed and unliberated environment where I felt much better than here.
Interesting, hey?
Yeah.
You know why that's the case?
Well, because here...
Two reasons. Far away, what do you think they are?
Well, I thought just exactly what you said is because...
Well, that's one.
Yeah.
And what's the next one? The oppression there, childhood oppression there, is worse than the childhood oppression that you experienced. And so you find it easy to live there because it's like it's not the same direction as the oppression you experienced. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
and it
absolutely.
makes you then feel like, oh, my life's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, compared to...
I actually said when I was there, again, I heard myself saying, I can really feel my own shape in this environment. And I looked at the environment and how oppressed and unliberated it was.
Yes.
But I could clearly feel my own shape.
Okay.
Whereas actually,
Because in this environment you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, when you've healed these or felt these emotions, you get to a point where no matter what environment you're in, you feel good.
Okay.
And your feelings of feeling good are immaterial. Like what's happening around you has no effect on how you feel.
Okay.
Right? And you don't then feel attracted to one place over another. You go to places based on desire. Yeah. So in other words, and your desires are not going to be based on location. Because remember, at some point in your future, you're going to die and not even be on the earth. And then how are you going to get to Spain? Like you have to, you know what I mean? Like, how are you going to lounge on the beach in Spain? Well, there's probably lots of places in the spirit world where you can lounge on the beach, and there is. But my suggestion to you is that we often have addictions to environments on earth that are based around what these environments allow us to express and what these environments allow us to oppress without feeling internally oppressed. So this is the situation we face. Once you are a spirit, what would you like to do? At this point in time, many of us have lives that are completely focused around the physical. In other words, we choose where we live and what we work at and all these other things completely on physical issues. We don't feel our desires, really. And once you truly connect with a desire, you will realise that this desire will go and extend not only through your life on earth, but also all the way through your life in the spirit world. And that's the indication of whether the desire is pure or not. When the desires are pure, they are independent of location. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Independent of location. When your desires are not pure, they will be focused on location. So in other words, you think you can only meet your desires when you go there, or you only meet your desires when you go here. And if that's the case, then it's all based on what unfelt emotions you're attempting to avoid.
That makes complete sense. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. It's good.